Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Smriti Ahuja and today I'll answer basic questions of proofreading. Where should we look for? What should we change? Or what should we edit while proofreading? Well, today's video will cover generic contents to be checked for proofreading. These are divided into layout, grammatical errors, formatting, fact-checking and referencing. Under the first component, layout, is our heading and subheading. These are incorporated for good organization, give a logical flow to your document and add continuity to your script. These must be numbered carefully. These are divided into 3 levels. Let me show you this with an example. For example, headings are divided into 3 levels. Level 1 headings are the chapter titles like this. Level 2 headings are the headings inside the chapters like this. And level 3 headings are the subheadings under level 2 headings like this. Also, there can be level 4 headings which are the subheadings of our level 3 headings, that is inside the subheadings like this. So if you notice, the author has used an uppercase for mentioning chapter 1 title while a different case is used for chapter 2 title heading, which is not to be followed like this. Also, another mistake the author has done is while numbering the headings. In the first instance, while mentioning the subheading, the author has used a lowercase a, while for subsequent subheadings, the author has used uppercase B and C. All such inconsistencies should be corrected while proofreading. Another point that comes into layout is the consistency, that we should stick to single format for everything. For example, while mentioning the full forms of abbreviations we have used in the manuscript, the initial letter of every word should be uppercase and this format should be followed at all times throughout the manuscript. Also, there is much confusion between which one to use, American or British English. Whichever you use, you should stick to the single format. For example, if you write the spelling of behavior without you, that format should be followed throughout. Another example of consistency is maintaining a single style guide throughout your manuscript, whether it is APA, MLA guide or Chicago manual. The third important component is the academic notes. These footnotes are a supplement to the main topic. They supply additional inputs, additional information for a particular topic. These are usually in a very small font size, so while proofreading, there is a tendency to ignore them. Let me show you with an example. In the sample manuscript, there is a footnote for symptoms. Let's check them out. These are always placed at the end of the chapter like this, and these are in a very small font size of 9 or 10. Another example of footnote is mentioned for school. It is also placed at the end of the chapter like this. So the quick tip for proofreading is to increase the font size to 12 or 14 so that you can look for the errors and then again place them back into their original font size of 9 and 10 when you have proofread the footnotes. The second part of generic contents is the grammatical errors. Under this, first we have are the punctuation marks. Under this, the most important punctuation mark is the apostrophes. We should be very careful while placing them. For example, some apostrophes are for possession, that means to show belonging. For example, in this case, the author actually means that the paper is using Kevin's research, but it is wrongly following the apostrophe like this. The correct form will be like this. Some apostrophes are generally the short form or the contraction. For example, here she's writing means actually it is short for she is. So we need to be very careful while placing the apostrophes. Another punctuation mark which is very important is the difference between a hyphen and a dash. A hyphen is smaller, a dash is larger. Also, a hyphen is a joiner between the two words like well-known, small case. But a dash actually means a strong pause because it adds to some preceding material with extra emphasis. For example, here the dash is used as a long pause for denoting the types of population, which are like American, Russian, and the French. So we should be careful while distinguishing whether we are using hyphen or a dash. Another important punctuation mark is the quotation, which can be single or double quotation marks. The most common mistakes that we make is either forgetting to close the quotation marks, or we use, let's say, double quotation marks in the beginning, but we close it with a single mark. So the correct will be to use a single format of quotation mark both for the beginning and the ending. The next and the last important punctuation mark is the period, and we should be very careful while placing it. For example, here the author has wrongly placed it inside the quotation mark, but the correct way is to place the period after the quotation mark. The next important category for general contents for proofreading is the spelling errors. For this, we need to first check the tone of the language, whether our language is using informal tone, which is depicted by words like it's, can't. For example, the researchers cannot comment. The cannot ensures a formal tone, while can't comment the informal tone. The second important spelling errors are the homophones. Homophones are the words which actually sound the same, but their spelling and meaning are totally different. For example, here this principal means head of an institution or school, but here principle means there is a moral value or ethic or a simple rule. The third important category for spelling errors is excessive reliance on the automatic feature of spell check in MS Word, because it is not foolproof. For example, here the author actually means care and affection while he is writing infection in place of affection, and the spell check error might not be able to observe this. Also, in place of pair of classes, the author has wrongly written it as pair of classes, and the spell check feature might not be able to capture this mistake. So it's better to rely on the manual skills for spelling check. The last important point is verifying all the spelling of the names of authors, scientists, researchers, or any other character we have used in our manuscript, because wrong spelling of a name will not be an act of disrespect, but it will not only lead to perfection. The next important point under grammatical errors is to check for our sentence formation and sentence structures. Your manuscript should be a mixture of both lengthy and short sentences to kill the monotony. But at the same time, a long sentence should not be having more than 15 words. Then it will be too lengthy and confusing also. While proofreading our sentences, we should check for overuse of pronouns, because that can lead to faulty pronouns reference. Let me explain this with an example. Check out this paragraph. Here, the pronoun it actually is for the noun school, but it is too far removed from the main noun. The correct placement will be to use it after the sentence containing the noun it refers to, like this. Also, while proofreading our sentences, we should check whether the language is too general, because that is not recommended. We should turn the language into specific sentences. For example, in place of just study, we can write the type or nature of the study. In place of simply mentioning the questionnaire, we can also mention the nature and type of the instrument, like this. Also, we should check for the repetition of the words within the sentences, which is a very common typo error that we make. So any repetition like this should be carefully removed while proofreading. The next important point under sentence framing is to check for weak nouns which need to be converted into strong nouns. For example, a weak noun would be mentioning the work, whereas a strong noun would be like a research study in place of work. which has a stronger connotation and emphasis. Another example is to use the word people. Rather, it should be used as respondents, which is more specific and denotes a stronger meaning. The next point is to add cohesion. That means in order to maintain continuity of the sentences and the paragraph and their meaning, we should use more of the linking words. Some of the examples are mentioned here, like as a result, as a consequence, due to which, consequently, or accordingly. There are more linking words which should be used more and more in order to maintain continuity between the paragraphs. The third most important component under generic contents is our formatting and consistencies. We should check whether all the paragraphs are indented to the left, the line spacing is equal among all the sentences and paragraphs, and also the body is indented to left immediately after the heading. Let me show this with an example. Check out the sample for an example. Here the body is perfectly indented to the left after the main heading, but check out for the inconsistency. Here the subheading is indented to the left correctly, but for the second subheading there is a larger margin which needs to be corrected and removed. Also, the spacing between this paragraph and the heading is equal. Also, the spacing between this heading and this paragraph is equal, but there is unequal spacing between these two paragraphs. So this needs to be removed. Also, all the paragraphs are starting from the left except the one which is starting from the center suddenly. So all these inconsistencies should be removed while proofreading. Another important aspect of formatting is to check whether all the figures, tables, charts, graphs are carefully numbered with sequence. Their caption and headings are also mentioned with the right description, and the sources of each figure is carefully mentioned. Again, it is advisable to count the heading numbers manually after the completion of the draft. At last, you should also verify the headings mentioned in your thesis match the table of contents, which is actually the beginning of your thesis page. The fourth important aspect of general content under proofreading is the fact-checking. After your draft is complete, please revise any mathematical calculation and check for any miscalculation and mistakes. Again, check for the dates, names, statistics used and compare them to the original source while revising. Also, please ensure that the quotations used by the authors match the original source and they do not misrepresent anyone. The last aspect and the most important one is the issue of plagiarism. Normally, even copying a phrase containing 4 to 5 words from another writer may lead to the charges of plagiarism. So always ensure uniqueness of your content. The last important general content for proofreading is the referencing part. Make sure that all the names, titles and dates are carefully verified with the original source. Also, there is a tendency that while drafting we include a lot of studies, but while editing we might remove the irrelevant studies. But at the same time we forget to remove the corresponding citation from our final bibliography or reference page. This needs to be proofread and corrected. Also, please verify that all the sources mentioned in in-text referencing are matched with the final page of your referencing or bibliography. It is always recommended to make your own handy checklist for all the elements to proofread or to edit and correct. Here's one mini checklist for your reference which contains all the generic contents which we have discussed in the video with all the subheadings under each category of general content. You can also mark the status of proofreading for each category and each subheading. I believe that you like the information in the video and you find it useful. For more information and assistance on proofreading services, please contact me, Dr. Smriti Ahuja, at the email ID mentioned here. For more useful content in future, please like, share, and post your valuable inputs on the YouTube channel Learning with Chandan. Thank you.